Say I'm still flying high, high, high. They tried to bring me down, 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 down. But I'm still flying high, 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 up in the sky, yeah, yeah.
My name is Tamiko Matthews. I am born and raised here in San Antonio, Texas. Grew up on the east side in an area called the Denver Heights.
My name is Christian Reed Agba. I'm an entrepreneur and a concerned citizen all the time.
Hi, I'm Piper. I'll be 17 on the 20th.
I am Jolene LeBlanc Jameson, which is new for San Antonio because for over 35 years I was Jolene LeBlanc Burley in this community.
I'm Andrea Vocab Sanderson, San Antonio Poet Laureate, 2020 through 2023. I'm the first African American Poet Laureate of San Antonio. They tried to clip my wings, but I managed to keep on flying, and I cried when I spread my wings, but the wind kept me from falling.
When I say I'm an educator that liberates.
I'm an accidental activist. I'm a mentor. I'm born and raised in Detroit, and I've been living in San Antonio for 10 years.
I'm a senior at Incarnate Word High School, and I want to go into psychology.
I came to San Antonio in 1982, a fresh graduate of Southern University. I came to San Antonio to attend graduate school at Trinity University.
So I became proactive in my quest to live, seeking to give back what was bestowed. I did what was in my soul and my spirit. I stood amid the buyers and bid for my destiny.
Grew up in a household that education really wasn't set as a high, expectation. Really wasn't an expectation. I was blessed to be exposed to some amazing women when I was younger. My mother didn't really have the ability to be a good mother because she wasn't mothered. So when it came to being nurturing and it came to trying to give my brothers what I wanted, I just looked to these women that, like I said, were placed in my life.
My parents lived in Yellow Springs, Ohio. My dad worked for Antioch University at the time. My mother was a brand new attorney, having graduated from Southern's Law School in 1958. So she left Louisiana as the first African-American woman licensed to practice law in East Baton Rouge Parish, and the second in the state of Louisiana. So I lived in two different worlds. In the 60s and 70s, Baton Rouge was still very segregated. All of our schools were segregated. I integrated my elementary school, St. Joseph's Academy.
Yeah, I've grown up in private school all my life, and most of my teachers have also gone to private school. So they're not exactly equipped for, they're not exactly racially sensitive, to say the least. My previous school that I went to last year and before that, my branch, one of the assignments was to write about how slavery affects the slave owner rather than it actually affects the slave. And then another branch, they had to write the pros and cons of slavery. So
one incident that stands out was an incident that occurred when I was in third grade. And it was a simple invitation to a birthday party. And it was to Leo's roller rink, which at that time was off limits to African Americans. And I remember walking in with my mother, and this woman standing behind the desk just yelled out when I walked in, "We don't serve," and she used the N-word. And I remember just being frozen and knowing that whatever she was saying was not good, and I wasn't really sure what it was, but I knew that I didn't want one of those either.
Well, having friends that go to private school, they're also not the most immersed in racial issues, like saying the N-word in a song. And I say, you shouldn't say that. They're like, oh, it's just a song.
My tongue a vessel, I now come forth, pouring out the liquid of my experience. May it run its course through the veins of your heart, traveling as a sojourner, irrigating, caught up in the drains of your thoughts.
I recognized early I was the only Black woman in attendance at a lot of events. And this was just 10 years ago. Being the only black woman in the room is eye-opening, to say the least. It's always the first thing I recognize, and it's always the last thing I'm willing to acknowledge, because it's 2021. It was a lot of moments where I said, this is uncomfortable, but if I just dig deep, I can make room for someone else.
African American women have historically just been disrespected. I mean, since the beginning, when you talk about the 15th Amendment didn't give all freed slaves the right to vote. It was specific about African American males. Females were kind of left out, right?
I think a lot of more so the discrimination I faced was more so size related than race related, but I mean, I've been called all of it. It starts with B's and H's and things of that nature.
Am I gonna be myself, or am I gonna make these people comfortable with me? Because you're trying to make this decision either to code switch and change up your look and your sound and what you'll laugh at.
I don't have the energy to compete in this rat race where people discriminate against me in my face, telling me what I can't do, weighing my talent to see who I measure up to, disapproving of the moves I've made, waiting to debate me with no legitimate reason to hate me.
My greatest challenge is having a voice, in the sense that I have to be very specific in what I say and how I say it.
So it's a very complex and complicated experience to be a woman, an African American woman.
People saying, you're intimidating. Our voices are translated without our knowledge, with bias.
The one that comes to mind is we have to always smile and have a pleasant face because we're just angry black women, and we cannot look serious or be expressive in our delivery because it is taken out of context, and we're labeled as angry black women.
Interpreting my passion as aggression, I think, had everything to do with being a black woman, because it goes back to that angry black woman myth. When I first started teaching, I had colleagues that would go to the principal and say things like, she's militant, or she's being very aggressive.
You're constantly having to anticipate that and correct and change your behavior so that you don't give the wrong impression. That's the exhausting part.
It's the hardest thing to constantly have to translate yourself in your own language. The way I speak shouldn't be micromanaged by myself or anyone else. It's never a moment where our voice is just enough voice.
Always verbally clipping at my wings, not allowing me the freedom to fly, and muting my voice so I cannot sing. Oh Lord, I now bring severed, tapered feathers for your healing.
My family is, like, everyone's dark but me. I stick out like a sore thumb, like in my immediate family. And anything my dad said, I believe to be fact. My dad said, well, when you were a baby, your mama dropped you in the mop water. That's where all your color went. And I was like, well, that makes sense.
Because I'm mixed, I've had to deal with people saying that I'm not really black, There's always that issue of you're too black for the white kids and too white for the black kids, so you can never really fit in. Well, especially when I was younger, the black kids would tell me that I'm not really black, or like they would joke around with me, like you only have half a black card, and things like that, or like, are you an Oreo or vanilla wafer? But I feel like I can't really talk about it as much as someone that would be darker because they've experienced more.
I don't need to be in anybody's box, right? The fact that I am comprised of so many different things is what makes me amazing.
So though I cried when I spread my wings, God, it was you that kept me from falling.
Historically, African American women have not been championed.
Black women have been, what Baldwin said, the most unprotected people in the world. We are unheard, we are unprotected, we are endangered.
In 2021, we're still celebrating the fact that there are women of all races and color that are just attaining a status. But for African American women, I can say honestly, I am exhausted, but I'm also exhilarated.
We see everything right above sea level in life, but if we could get some foresight for the future, if we can go up just a little higher and have a different visage and viewpoint of life, we would see the vastness and the possibilities. They tried to clip my wings.
I'm a strong woman. I just happen to be black.
But I'm still flying high, high, high up in the sky, yeah, yeah. Say I'm still flying high, high, high. They tried to bring me down, 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 down. But I'm still flying high, high, high up in the sky, yeah, yeah. So I'm still flying high, high up in the